The EU and China's economic relationship is massive, over $700 billion in goods traded in 2023 alone. China is the EU's top trading partner for goods, while Europe is a crucial market for Chinese exports and advanced tech, but this partnership is under strain. The EU accuses China of unfair trade practices, like state subsidies and limited market access for European firms. Brussels is shifting from open engagement to de-risking, not cutting ties, but reducing critical dependencies. This creates a dilemma. Europe's industries, especially in Germany, rely on China, but there's growing political will to protect EU economic sovereignty. The EU's trade deficit with China keeps widening, fueling calls for a more balanced relationship. The result? A precarious balancing act between economic necessity and strategic security. Tensions have escalated, setting the stage for a confrontation. That confrontation arrived in the form of tariffs. The EU's new tariffs on Chinese goods, especially electric vehicles, followed years of frustration and investigation. The European Commission found Chinese EVs benefited from heavy state subsidies, allowing them to undercut European car makers. The tariffs aim to level the playing field, not block Chinese EVs, but offset unfair advantages. Rates vary by company, but all raise prices for Chinese EVs in Europe. Brussels frames this as defending fair competition and the EU's industrial base. The move signals a broader shift. The EU is now more willing to use trade defense tools against what it sees as China's distortive practices. Not everyone in the EU agrees. Germany, with its huge auto sector, fears Chinese retaliation could hurt its own exports. Other member states support the tough stance, seeing it as essential for Europe's future. The EU had to weigh the risk of Chinese retaliation against the risk of long-term industrial decline. The decision was controversial, but the EU pressed ahead. The stage was set for China's response. China hit back fast, calling the EU tariffs protectionist and denying any unfair subsidies. Instead of immediate counter-tariffs, Beijing ordered state funds and major firms to pull $3.8 billion from European investments. This targeted withdrawal hit projects in countries most involved in the tariff decision, especially Germany and Italy. The message: China can use its financial muscle, not just trade, as leverage. The withdrawal served three purposes: punish the EU, warn of bigger moves, and divide member states by targeting their economies. For China, capital flows are now a tool of foreign policy. The $3.8 billion pullout was a warning shot. More could follow if the EU doesn't back down. This marks a new phase in global economic disputes. It's not just about goods, but investment and financial stability. The EU suddenly faced not just a trade fight, but a threat to its economic core. The impact was immediate and severe. Europe's leaders realized the stakes had just risen. The confrontation was no longer theoretical. It was real, and it was costly. Germany, Europe's export powerhouse, felt the pain first. German automakers like Volkswagen and BMW depend on China for sales and investment. China's withdrawal hit a $1.2 billion battery joint venture in Bavaria, killing 1,500 jobs and chilling the local economy. Chinese investors also dumped shares in German engineering firms, sending stock prices tumbling. German exports to China dropped nearly 15% in the months after the dispute began. The IFO Institute slashed its growth forecast, citing the trade conflict as a major risk. Business leaders warned that a trade war would hurt everyone, urging a return to dialogue. The German auto industry called the EU's tariffs a historic mistake. Their message: Germany's prosperity depends on open trade, not tit-for-tat battles. Pressure mounted on Berlin to seek a diplomatic solution. Italy, with a weaker economy, was hit differently, but just as hard. Italy had courted Chinese investment for recovery, joining the Belt and Road Initiative and seeking capital for ports, luxury goods, and manufacturing. China's withdrawal froze an $800 million port project in Trieste, threatening jobs and Italy's ambitions as a trade hub. Chinese divestment from Italian luxury brands cut off both capital and access to Chinese consumers. Foreign investment in Italy plunged, and business confidence hit a new low. The government's economic plans were thrown into doubt. Italian business leaders voiced alarm, saying the EU's tough stance left them exposed. Unlike Germany, many Italian firms are small and depend on specific Chinese partnerships. The loss of investment felt like a betrayal, not just a setback. Italy's recovery was suddenly at risk. German and Italian business leaders both opposed the tariffs, but for different reasons. In Germany, the response was pragmatic: protect exports, avoid escalation, and keep the China relationship stable. German industry giants lobbied Berlin to push Brussels for compromise. fearing lost market share to global rivals. Their message, engagement, not confrontation, is the answer. In Italy, the mood was more desperate. Italian firms, especially smaller ones, saw Chinese investment as vital for survival and growth. The withdrawal felt like a direct threat to their future. Italian leaders spoke of broken partnerships and lost opportunities. The EU's approach, they argued, was hurting those least able to weather the storm. The split revealed deep divisions in Europe's economic priorities. The pressure on EU leaders to find a way out grew stronger. China's $3.8 billion withdrawal marks a turning point in EU-China relations. The era of easy engagement is over. Economic interdependence is now a source of risk as well as growth. The EU faces a test of unity, with Germany wary of confrontation and Italy vulnerable to lost investment. Europe must now build a more cohesive strategy, strengthening its own industries and reducing reliance on foreign capital. Tensions and negotiations will dominate the near future, with both sides using tariffs and capital as leverage. A compromise may emerge, but the core issues, subsidies and market access, aren't going away. The lines between trade, investment, and geopolitics have blurred. Both sides will seek new partners and more resilient supply chains. Full decoupling is unlikely, but the relationship will be more competitive and cautious. The challenge: manage rivalry without triggering a global economic crisis. The world will be watching how Europe and China navigate this new era.